So I'm a Howard School of Business alum. So I need y'all to show some love, give me some energy. HU. Okay. All right, so we're gonna dive in because we have some heavy hitters here on stage. So Andre, I'm gonna start with you. Many of us know you from dominating on the courts, 19 seasons, 4 NBA championships with the Golden State Warriors. But you've also been super prolific when it comes to business. So talk to us about how you made the transition and what initially motivated you to get into business and get into all of the amazing deals that you've gotten into, Qualtrics, Datadog, Zoom. How have you approached building a career off the court?
Well, I think it's, just having a curiosity as a professional athlete. And when you have a skill set that gives you the opportunity to be in a place, similar to the NBA or wherever you're at, I think it's smart for you to dive deeper into that business. And so once I started diving deeper into the business of basketball, seeing what a lot of these owners were getting into, how they were able to acquire the team, how they were able to give out, back then, $70, $80 million was like a maximum contract. Like that was a lot. Now guys are getting paid that in 1 year. So, just the numbers in basketball, the economics of it, and just seeing where the game was trending, where could it go? And from there, really just started asking a lot of questions to the right people, trying to surround myself with or identify individuals who can be mentors to me. Ended up being this guy right here. And so from that point on, just venturing out into, seeing what was out there in the world, what's happening next, the markets of sports. Now we're probably going to have a streaming partner. And so being able to look back, 15 years and seeing, what is Amazon or where are we going to go with this iPhone? And from there, it's almost like a reverse engineer. So you have a goal. Okay, this is where I want to be in 20 years. And so how do I get there? This is step one, getting knowledge. So reading and learning as much as possible. It's like going to school on your own. And then from there, who are the individuals that I can reach out to? So we have a method now where we've been able to build a database of a network to get in touch with anybody that's an expert in any field within the tech sector, and they'll respond. But we had to start somewhere. And so cold calling folks and learning as much, and then just putting my boots on the ground, internships. Like I was making, $14, $15 million a year, but I was working for free in the summer. Like people don't see that type of work. So you just got to be willing to put in the work. And it almost has to be like a passion, and it has to be bigger than yourself and what you're trying to accomplish.
Awesome. So it sounds like you were okay being a beginner in the business world and grinding it out. Awesome. So Rudy, for you got your start as one of the youngest agents ever, which is amazing. Working with legendary players like Tim Duncan and Grant Hill before Andre came into the league. Tell us about how you got your first job and what motivated you to make the jump into tech.
First job, first job, I was relentless. I wasn't good enough to play in the NBA, obviously, and realized that I had a passion for sports and business. And the only way that I thought I could marry the two was in the sports agency world. And I doggedly approached 3 of the top agents in the country. I think I mailed them at the time. Email wasn't proficient. I'm not going to tell on myself as it attributes to age, but I think I mailed them every 2 weeks and ended up getting meetings. And that's how I landed my first position. So that was it.
That's amazing. And we won't share your age, but the mail does kind of give it away a little bit.
Well, we still do mail, actually. So, I mean, if you want to, I'll expound on that. And just because, we want to give you guys something to kind of walk away here from. But we mail everybody, we don't email at all. So, we've been doing that. I learned that when I was in college and getting my first internship of mailing the top CEOs in the world and making sure that I did that as much as possible just so I could stand out. And then, when I landed my first internship, it was the NBA. I realized that it actually worked. People were like, you still mail, And And then even now, I mean, the first thing that I did, 2014, he was named MVP of the finals. The first thing that I did was mail the top 400 CEOs in the Fortune 500. And the first person to respond was Warren Buffett. And I gave him a present for winning the MVP. It was a visit to Warren Buffett. So that's what we did. So again, and we haven't stopped doing it. I think I sent out maybe what, over the last couple of months, maybe over 1,000 pieces of mail. And we're still meeting CEOs to this day, from folks that, we mailed. And the first thing they said, I can't believe you sent mail, right? I haven't gotten mail like this in a very long time, and it hasn't stopped yet. So, start mailing, get to it.
One of them had a physical mail back. Lowe's is Lowe's CEO.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he mailed back to the office.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing, and that's a huge differentiator because most folks have completely abandoned mail. But as you mentioned, the CEOs see it as something that's unique and special, and it makes them pay attention. So great idea, and hopefully you all are taking notes. And you could do it on a small scale now. Maybe you don't mail championship prizes, but you can mail thank you notes, for an example.
Not just mail, actually. I mean, just mail and tell them who you are. Throw anything in it, that you want to talk about. Again, you never know who's going to pick it up and or read it. Most folks aren't used to getting physical mail. So again, don't be bashful and do it as much as you can. So you don't need anything special. I think the advent of just mailing and stepping out there is really important. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Something I found really interesting in researching was that you all partnered on the Players Technology Summit. Tell us what that is. Why was it important for you all to launch it? How has it impacted other players and getting them involved in technology?
Yeah, when we first got to the Bay, we realized that, first and foremost, we were the only African Americans in most of the rooms that we were in. Then we were just blown away by what we were learning. The advent of what we were learning and how new it was and seeing where the world was going. We knew that it was really important for us to share this knowledge. It was gonna die with us, if it was just only with us or what have you. And we just took it to make money for ourselves. And we thought we could be even more powerful or more substantial if we shared it with a community of athletes specifically, given who they are in the world. So we first started, we partnered with our partner, Rich Smith, who's over there, and came up with the genesis of the Players Technology Summit. And obviously it led to a lot of things that we're doing today.
Awesome. And I can attest, I moved out to the Bay Area right after graduating from Howard in 2010. And it was definitely culture shock coming from a very Black environment to not so diverse out in the Bay Area. So thank you for what you've done for so many players. I'm sure they really appreciate it. So you've both been a part of many successful enterprises. Choosing the right team is super critical. We've talked about that before the session. It's important for building and growing just about any type of business. So talk about how and why you two partnered up, and also the makeup of the broader team at Mosaic. And also, what factors are you optimizing for when you're picking your teammates?
Well, I'll start with, I think you all have to have like a outsized mindset in terms of like your vision and where you want to go. Like you should all have a crazy ambition, crazy work ethic. You don't have to see eye to eye on everything, but you have to understand the goal, and that goal has to be aligned with one another. And I think a big part of it is like radical candor, being able to push one another, understanding that, you probably fight more with your family than anybody else, but you're going to stand behind your family before anyone else. And so just the same mindset in who you want to build with. And so you shouldn't be agreeing on every single thing, and when you have that radical candor, it allows you to be able to cover for each other in your blind spots, and I think of it like the Olympic rings. All those rings are connected, and it's a little room of overlap, and that overlap is like, some you know a lot of things together, but there's a lot of room filled in between where it's like, this is your knowledge. But the interconnecting is just making sure that, we're always on one accord, We're always covering for each other in the blind spots. We all have an understanding and a respect for what we all bring to the team and the value that each person brings. And it's not too much overlap, but it's just enough for us to always be able to go out and push forward the message for what we're trying to solve for, what we're trying to help build, and how we're trying to help the companies that we're investing in.
Yeah, I think a big thing, what Andre touched on, is just our curiosity first and foremost. I think, early on when we started, we were very much curious about the same things. And then also the work ethic. Most folks just don't want to work, and, just don't understand what it takes. And I think that our work ethic, was what attracted us to one another first and foremost. I mean, again, just given the fact that he was doing what he was doing on the basketball court, yet, he understood how much work that it took, off the court as well, too, is what attracted me to him and what made him very much different from, all the other athletes. And then most importantly was just also trust. He allowed me to take him in his likeness or what have you and go out and develop business relationships as well, too, right? So he didn't have to be front facing everywhere, and that's very unique for an athlete. Most of them are narcissists or what have you, right? Have to be all things and everything, and generally can't have partners that, they feel comfortable representing them as well, too. And I think that that's what made our partnership very, very much unique, And then also, most importantly, we just learned together, We realized we started out, we didn't know much, and everything we learned, we always bring it back. And we've learned together over the years or what have you, So, and then obviously over time, you get to learn with one another. You build together, you obviously succeed and or not. We failed a lot as well, too. Everyone wants to talk about the stuff that we've done right. We made we've effed up a lot, right? But we're not afraid to, but we've always had each other's back as well, too. So, and that's another thing, too. I mean, there's a lot of situations that I've been in or what have you to where he's just had my back, when he hasn't had to, and hopefully vice versa as well, too, over the years.
That's awesome. So I heard radical candor is super important, and just a book recommendation by the same name. It's a book called Radical Candor. It's by Kim Scott, which I think gives some good instruction on how to actually implement radical candor in your life and in your relationships and in your work. Work ethic is super critical. We were talking about a lot of people don't want to work, but that's paramount to success. And continuous learning. That's also important. So you guys have been in this for a minute, but you're always learning, always growing, and that makes the partnership work. So following up on that and turning a bit to, I know we had a lot of folks raise their hand to say that they are currently entrepreneurs or interested in becoming entrepreneurs. Talk about what they should be looking for when it comes to picking the folks that they are teaming up with as student entrepreneurs and as they matriculate into business or whatever they end up doing.
Well, I'll start with, making sure that the vision is aligned and understanding the process. I think a lot of times we're always looking too far ahead, like we're trying to get there tomorrow, and understand it's like a slow burn. And understanding, like I said, like reverse engineering. Like Bezos knew he wanted to build the everything store, but no one knew what the hell was going on when he was just selling books. It's like, why are you selling books online? Like, this doesn't make sense. But he knew at some point I'm going to sell everything from here. And you got to have that discipline. You got to have that sacrifice, because you sacrifice a lot, social life, your time, like you're just bogged down. And so just understanding the vision that it's supposed to be hard. One of my favorite things Steve Kerr said to me, he was like, the champagne and all that's cool. You're not popping champagne just to pop champagne. You're celebrating all the things you went through to get there. Like, the arguing, the fighting, the extra practices, the extra hours, playing through pain. Like, that's what you're celebrating. And once you get there, you realize, like, this is why you work hard. And so it becomes like second nature to have the wherewithal to understand, like, slow burn. And so just making sure everyone's vision's aligned and where you're trying to go. And like, I see a lot of folks like pivoting too early. It's like sometimes it could be timing. You can have the right product at the wrong time. So maybe you have to wait. Maybe too early. Maybe you're too late. And then there's other things to it as well. It's just, it might be a great idea in 10 years. So just knowing like what you're trying to accomplish. And I think trying to solve for something that hasn't been solved for. We like to piggyback off what's hot. And it's like we go to like the trending topics. That's what it is. That's how we build companies. And it's like try to solve for something that no one's been able to solve for.
I would just say that every startup and or process has their own time. I think it's really, really hard to stay focused given a lot of the pressures, whether it's from, investors and or building out a team or just having conviction with your original thesis, and then also we always read about, success stories and stuff like that, generally speaking. So you have that inbound pressure to do things at a certain level or at a certain time or what have you. And, the only time that you have is your time, and you have to learn through it all. Right. And you're going to make more mistakes than not. And I think most of the companies that we see and or people that succeed are the ones that just stick to it, through it all. Right. And they can stick through it the longest. So longevity is more important than anything. It's not timing or what have you. And again, not succumbing to the pressure.
Awesome. So to pick up on the point about sticking to it, we are in a cycle right now, a market cycle that is, I would say, pretty challenging, probably quite different than what we've seen in our careers as investors. Talk about what's been some of your biggest lessons learned, particularly now as we're navigating a new type of reality as investors.
I'll start out by just saying, like, everybody in this room, like, we're all in the same position. So regardless of what we've done over the last 13 years or 14 years, like, we're all starting from scratch because all the rules that were created over the last 13, 14 years generally just don't apply to how we're looking at the world today, So we're all starting at the same position and trying to forget exactly what we thought we knew or what we thought we learned over the last 13 years as well, too. And as a fund, we have to constantly remind ourselves almost every week, as to just, we need to set a new paradigm, and whatever we did before and any success that we had previously doesn't really amount to anything moving forward, So I think that you either are going to be afraid of that, and or it's going to be a massive opportunity just moving forward if you can truly understand that, and you have that conviction, but we're all in the same place in this room as investors.
I mean, for me to just add to it, be cautious of just chasing things that are trending at the moment. If you are going to chase something, like, you really should have an understanding of what it is. Like, your thesis is your thesis, and is it adding to it or is it taking away from it in terms of like market cap or your total addressable market? And if it's adding to it, learn as much as you can about it. It's like AI right now, everyone's chasing it, but understanding how it affects directly what you do. And I think that's how you extract the value out what you're doing and how you can add to it.
So you mentioned AI, and it's a little bit off script, but because I know a lot of students are working on AI related projects, I'm curious your thoughts on what's getting you excited in the market, and what are you kind of saying, we'll wait or we'll pass on companies that are doing things in the realm of AI?
I would say efficiency. I've been able to get a lot of work done using AI, or not being bogged down by like mundane things. Like if I need to I had to put together a comprehensive like letter, and I typed up like a ton of ideas. Like I'm just typing what I'm thinking, which I'm really good at. And then formulating it is where I struggle. And so I just had OpenAI just formulate it for me, tell them exactly what to do. And it has access to my email, so it understands my cadence, it understands how I write. And so it was just small things like that. Now it's bigger, way bigger things that they're building right now, like text to image, image to video, like that's coming out now. And the space I deal in terms of athletics and advertising and how athletes can speak to different demographics or speaking to different groups with different languages. Now who you're able to reach directly, like you talk about direct to consumer, like direct to, 5 billion people that have a cell phone in a different manner. Now you get to think like, how can you extract the most out of your customer? And you're providing a very personalized piece of property to them. And so there's value on both sides.
Yeah, I just think that, if you have a passion for any specific industry or any specific service, then again, if you want to attribute it to AI and or go into that specific facet of AI, that makes the most sense from my point of view. But again, it's very much the buzzword. I think it's very much a bubble for the most part. But again, it is the future. So again, make sure that you're focused on your passion and applying your passion to a specific segment and industry focus.
Awesome. So shifting gears a little bit to a few topics that I think will be super interesting to the audience. Many folks here are preparing for their first job or preparing to scale their entrepreneurial venture and maybe not take a job and focus on that. So what advice would you offer for either securing that first job or scaling the venture so that they can make enough money so they don't have to get the first job?
I'll be willing to say, like, it's a lot easier to sacrifice now and reap the benefits later, as opposed to trying to chase something grand, like right off the bat. You know, there's something in mastering the fundamentals. And this was the essence of sports before AAU came along. It was discipline. It was accountability. It was being able to work together as a team. Like all those like really small things that help you become a great leader or help you become great at having an actual job, no matter what it is. And I feel like you learn that when you're in your youth. You know, they always say, like, it's easier to learn things at a younger age. And so not being afraid to take less now, understanding that you'll probably extract more out of yourself and get a better understanding. Like, you know, someone who's worked in every part of a company, we hear those CEO stories a lot. You know, like, I work there, I work there, I work there. I know they know every part of the operation. And most folks want to skip a few steps along the way and just go straight to a certain title, not understanding the journey and how, I played in Philadelphia for 8 years. And, that was an interesting time, but it prepared me for the 4 championships.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a great point that he makes. I think all your success will be based on what you sacrifice now versus later. I was lucky enough early on to being able to sacrifice, and I want my mom to raise her hand. Please, Mom, can you raise your hand, please? Whereas I never felt the pressure of having to make money, right? Being able to follow my passion or what have you. And at the time, I didn't realize it. I just was focused on doing what I loved first and foremost. But I realized that, you know, all the folks that we know, especially that are even extremely wealthy or what have you, they all follow their passion. You know, no one has ever done anything that we've known that's been extremely successful for money, you know, specifically, right? They all wanted to create something to change the world. They're extremely focused on doing so. And again, obviously, the residue was wealth, but that was never what they were in it for, right? So I think it's so hard to be an entrepreneur, and it's so hard to be successful. If you don't have the passion, it won't get you through the hard times whatsoever, right? You know, because essentially you don't really feel it because you're so passionate, you're so focused on it. You don't feel it as such, you know, a certain way. So that's very important. And then also just all the entrepreneurs as well, too. Again, they're looking for funding. I think access to capital for entrepreneurs that look like us is really, really, it's not as easy. I think it's important for you guys to take all the list of all the VCs and or private equity shops that you know and write them all, you know, literally. I think it's really important to take the initiative to get out there, know who everyone is, what different firms are doing what or what have you. And again, just generally reaching out. You don't need to know someone or what have you. You'd be very, very surprised on the responses that you'll be able to get doing things that way. So don't be bashful. Don't be afraid. Don't wait, you know, just do it. And let's see what happens.
Awesome. And thank you, Rudy's mom, for a job well done, and for allowing him to follow his passion. I think the world is better for it. So there are some students here who maybe are more interested in investing and being on the side of the table that we find ourselves on these days. So what advice would you have for them for breaking into the VC industry?
Be very, very creative. And what I mean by be creative is figuring out ways to find people with crazy ideas. Because what we've tried to do in understanding that there aren't enough African American startup founders compared to the grand scale. And we probably, no, I shouldn't say there aren't enough of us. We just aren't getting funded.
Right.
And
Did you just say we aren't what?
We aren't getting funded.
Oh, yes, correct.
And the sentiment is, well, we don't know where to find them. And so that's what we're trying to do, is build the pipeline. And so knowing where talent is a crazy unlock. Like being in Silicon Valley, it was this one startup. I heard a story of a VC tell me. He said a friend of his was like, yo, there's this kid with this AI product. I'm not at liberty to tell you who he is, but he's on Stanford's campus. It's up to you to find him. And so he's like, I'm literally running around Stanford's campus looking for this one kid. He found him. And Rich and I are trying to figure out how to get in the same deal through that guy that found his kid. But that's just being on your hustle and being willing to be like, I can come on Howard and just look for one person. Like, that's like a needle in a haystack. It's the same analogy, but you just figuring out ways to be creative, to find certain people, finding pipelines, understanding where talent is based on the regions across the country and what industries that they're coming from, who to know in what spaces, who to track, how to track them, and just building up that knowledge of how to make that process easier. Because, we looked at 500 companies to invest in 10. So we said no to 490 times. So as a VC, you're going to say no. You're going to see a lot of things that are just going to waste your time. So figuring out ways to cut that time down in the process of finding what you're trying to find.
Yeah, I think it's just learning. You have to learn first. I always say that I was never the smartest guy in the room, but I knew who was, right? There's a bunch of venture capitalists out there now. It's a prevalent industry. So it's important, everyone wants to rush to be an investor or what have you, but it's very important to learn. And just like I said in the beginning, we're all starting from scratch right now. The market's very much changed. So understand the intricacies of the industry takes a really, really long time. Again, it's really important to surround yourself with the people that have done it quite well for a while before trying to step out there.
Awesome. And I'll just add my 2 cents to this one. I think it's really important to start building a thesis, understanding where your curiosities lie, what are you interested in, using your time here to do deep research to get an understanding of markets. If you can start to build a track record, even if it's off of $1,000, $5,000 angel investments, and see those kind of grow over time, I think that creates something that's differentiated as you're trying to break into this industry. So last question before we go to audience Q&A, so get your questions ready. What are the current industry and cultural trends that are getting you excited, that you're finding deals in, that you're trying to go on campuses and find that one innovator? What are some of the things that you're excited about these days?
I do think there are things like AI that can assist us in our habits of how we care for ourselves, that can have benefits that come from it in other disciplines that we create in our lives.
Yeah, I'm really excited about, I think, a sector that folks have said recently that isn't attributable to tech, but that we are really excited about, given the recent acquisition that we made in Athletes First, which is the #1 NFL agency. Is the essence of consumer, and consumer and the social aspect of consumer. So one of our main theses that we're really focused on now is the fastest growing consumer brands have a social aspect to it. The individuals, specifically athletes, and who they are in our communities now, there's an infrastructure behind a lot of these social aspects of who these individuals are, to where they're becoming companies, right? And they're selling goods and services to their communities. And there haven't been too many successes. but we want to be behind possibly the next couple, right, as to how we look at it. So I think that we're using our leverage to possibly recreate or hopefully create a whole new marketplace, and that's what I'm really excited about.
Awesome. I got a couple companies for y'all along those lines. So that's a sidebar. But all right, let's open it up. Any questions in the audience?
Good afternoon. My name is Amani Kelly. I'm a sophomore business management major from Colorado Springs, Colorado. And my question is kind of for all of you in regards to investing. As investors, are you looking more into ethical business practices, especially as the current climate today? I think people are a little bit more conscious with where they want to spend their money. So are you looking into more ethical businesses?
Yes, for me. At Collab, we are, I would say, impactful investors. And as part of that, we have to evaluate the kind of across the board, the impact of the companies that we invest in as far as the products they produce, consumption related to those products, and who is it serving. So that's part of the investment criteria for every deal that we do.
Yeah, and at Mosaic, we have actually in our thesis how the company's built from within and the makeup of the company. African Americans are the largest consumers, per capita, by far. But a lot of these companies that are selling to us don't know how to sell to us because no one in there is telling them how to sell to us. And so we've identified that as something that's not just the sale, but as the responsibility with the pipeline and how we're trying to introduce our people into tech is to making sure that we're helping these companies build as well.
Hello, my name is Sarah Abdugdir. I'm a freshman international business major from Rockville, Maryland, and a proud team member of Team 3A, sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Co. And the question I had for you guys, it's a very general question, but for everyone who's an investor or not investor in here, just someone that wants to go into any industry, if you are in our shoes right now, what are things you think we should be focused on right now?
I would say just reading. I mean, again, if you have a general interest in a specific industry, there's so much to consume. So knowledge is everything. I think the biggest thing for me when I was in your shoes was emulating the individuals that have been successful in those specific industries, whether it be company and or CEO. Everybody has a path, and most of us start from zero, right? So I've always wanted to emulate the past of the individuals that I saw were successful, and that's always been the case. So again, just doing as much background research as you possibly can as it attributes to the successful either companies and or individuals in the spaces that you're interested in. That would be my advice.
I would just echo that. I started watching Bloomberg and it was like a foreign language. And now that's literally the only thing that's on my TV. I mean, my partner Mutaba is here, and every time he comes in my office, it's always on Bloomberg. So it's like, that said noise, I'm gonna catch something if I'm not even paying attention to it. So that's helped me even in meetings.
And I would just say, leverage the opportunity. You all have an amazing foundation here at Howard. You're on the JP Morgan team. Get the internship. I was on the Goldman Sachs team, and then I became the Goldman Sachs team leader, and I had the internship at Goldman Sachs, and that was the first step. And then I just piled on from there. So leverage the opportunity that you all have being in this space today, and one thing will lead to the next.
Thank you. My name is Michael MacArthur III, freshman marketing major from Williamstown, New Jersey. And to the panelists, you are successful in your own ways. I have a question. So what would you say are 3 qualities that make a successful person to get where you all are at?
I think we spoke about it. Curiosity, work ethic. I mean, those 2 are it. If you got curiosity and work ethic, you could pretty much. There's nothing that's going to get in your way.
I would say the third thing is just sacrifice, right? Yeah. So the third thing would be sacrifice. I think that for me, that's the biggest thing is, what are you willing to give up to get what you want? One we all like to have fun. We all like to feel good. You know, how much are you willing to, again, embrace that pain to get to really what you want? And I think that's just it, you know. And if you can't do that, if you're not willing to do that, then, you know, be willing not to get to where you want to go. I think it sounds simple, but if it is really that simple at the end of the day, you know. So again, what are you really willing to sacrifice to get what you want?
All right. Well, thank you, Andre. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you to everyone who coordinated. We appreciate it. And pass it on.
I want to say something. Anybody who wasn't able to ask a question, come to the side and we'll answer your questions as well, too. I want to make sure that we answer all the questions.